So I found this game last week. It's called Guess the Correlation, and I found it via a tweet by Sean Taylor, and I just thought it was interesting how he said it was addictive, so I started playing it. But before we get there, we're going to play the game in a minute, but let's do a quick review of correlation. So here we have two columns of numbers, here, temperature in Fahrenheit and ice cream sales. Now, we use Excel's Correl function. This will give us the R value. And we basically just have to highlight the two columns, and then the value that we get, the answer to the Correl function is 0.913. And what that means, let's just open this up now, and we see that the correlation can be anywhere from +1 to -1. And when we get closer to 1, that means it's very strong linear correlation, positive linear correlation. In this case, this is perfect. It's right on 1. Our 0.913 obviously is right around here. It's very close. It doesn't mean that one causes the other, but there is some sort of relationship, although it could be just coincidental. So let's look at the main points here. Number one, correlation coefficient simply measures the strength of a relationship between two things. Number two, as we see here, the values range from 1 down to -1. Here, there's no linear correlation. This is perfect positive, this is perfect negative, and then we have values in the middle. This refers to linear relationships only. And last but not least, possibly the most important, is that correlation does not mean that one thing causes the other. It just means that if it's very positive, they're going in the same direction. If it's very negative, they're going in opposite directions. All right, so let's go back here, and now we're going to play this game. So let's click here. It will open up in my browser. Now we see the game, and you can sort of move around here. You can look at the scoreboard and see the high scores. These guys must have played for a long, long time. Let's go back, and we go to the About screen, and it gives you a little review of, see how the R value of 1, it's in a perfect line. They line up perfectly. And as you go down, it gets more and more scattered. Here, you can just barely see the trend, and then over here, an R value of 0, there's no direction at all. So let's go back to main menu, and I'm going to start a new game, and let's see what we get here. Now, this to me looks like about 0.74. So I'm going to click guess, and I'm a little bit off, right? It was 0.66. So I'll try another one, and that is looking very strong, probably about 0.94. I'm going to try that. So I was very close. All right, let's try another one. As this goes on, you see that you get points, and when you get a streak, you get even more points. Now this looks more like, I don't know, 0.4 to me. Let's see what we get. Okay, so I lost a heart and maybe a couple of points because I was off by just enough. So let's do one more, and this is probably almost 0. Let's put 0.1. Oh wow, it was 0.24. And one more. Okay, so this is also not very strongly correlated. I'll say 0.12 or 11. So I was very close on that one. And let's try, oh, another one that's pretty scattered. But I'm going to say 0.2 on this one. Very close. Oh, that's another one that's not very, let's put 0.8 or something. All right, so now I'll quit at this point. Let's go back to Excel, and we'll sort of continue here with, all right, let's look at links. I got a bunch of links in here to learn more. There's YouTube videos, there's some books, different things in here where you can continue to learn correlation. If you really want to get into it deep, there's some good material here. But the next thing would be this. Let's look at these different screens here. I've got 4 of them actually, 4 different sheets, and each one has some numbers here. In this case, we have a Correl value of 1. That's because for every x value, as you see in the equation here, when you create an xy scatter, I'll just create one, I'll show you. Highlight the values, we say insert, we say xy scatter right there, and here are the values. And they look pretty like a pretty straight line. I can right click on any of these dots, and I can say add trend line. It's off the side of the screen here, but now I'm going to say it's linear, of course. I'm going to say show the equation. And now it starts off kind of small, but you can add some formatting and make this bigger and easier to read. But we see it's the same thing as we have down here. The y value is basically the x value plus 100. A very, very simple equation because I did this on purpose. Every single y value is simply the x value plus 100. Now, it's not always that easy, but let's just delete this. And I have some stuff behind here. Because how does Excel come up with the math behind this to get that value of 1? So if I just delete this, now we see all these steps, the math behind this whole thing. So you can sort of download this workbook and work through this whole thing and see how it works. Change some of these values. Then you'll see that our value of 1, and here we also have 1, but this is sort of through the steps and the math of all these 5 steps. But when you change these values, obviously it's going to change where the dots appear, and it's going to change the equation, and it won't be 1 anymore. It will be less than 1. Let's go to the next one. This is a more realistic. It's 0.72 when we look at these numbers against those numbers, the x values and the y values. Here's the equation on the chart. And once again, I'm going to just delete this thing here. And now we see all the steps. And the next one is, so this one is relatively strong, 0.72. The next one is very, very weak, almost nothing at all. 0. Okay, though this one is 0.3. So that's actually that's not nothing, but it's not very strong. And I'm just going to delete these two things here. And we see, here we see the equation, right, which is y equals mx plus b. So we'll look at one more sheet. So this one, play around with the values again, and you'll see these numbers changing, the equation changing. That's the best way that I know of how to learn it. I mean, of course, go to the links, study some more things here, but just playing around with the numbers, seeing how it flows through and how it affects the final answer, whether we look at it here with the steps or here with the math is hidden within the Correl function. All right, so there's one more. And this one is interesting because what we can do, I'll just delete this one more time. And this time I have calculated the slope and the intercept. So I'll just briefly mention this. See this thing right here. This is y equals mx plus b. That's the equation here on the chart. And the m is the slope. So looking at this, the m in here, that's the slope of the line. The next thing is the x value. So we multiply the slope times the x value. So the first one is 79 all the way down for each one. And then we get the intercept. The intercept is where it crosses and hits 0 over here. Now it's starting at 60. We'd have to change this. Let me just double click this and change the minimum to 0. Okay, so if this line went all the way back, it looks like it's going to be minus, what is that, minus 8, where it crosses over. So I paused the video, and what I did was I just changed this so we can see the dotted line going backwards. So if we right-click on here, and here we see some of the options, and I just said backwards 60, so we can see this line go all the way back, and sure enough, the dotted line, when it hits 0 here, when it crosses over, hits the y-axis, it looks like it's about minus 8 or 9, which is what we have over here. Now, also, see, sometimes people say that they want to see the dots that make up that trend line. The way to do that is this. We want to take our equation, use the slope in the intercept, which is calculating based off of our actual values over here in the black background. So we take all of that and we just substitute it into the formula here. So mx plus b. So the m is the slope, which is the one right there. That's multiplied against our x value. All right, and then each time we add the what we're going to do is add the intercept, which is that minus 8. So let's just go in here and do F9. Highlight this, I press F9. We see the value, that's our slope. The slope is going to be multiplied by our x value of 79. Let's just make sure. I press this, highlight this, press F9. There's the 79, and then plus the negative value of minus 8.06. So when we do all of this, we're going to end up with 75.77. So you drag this all the way down, then you take this, you copy it, highlight the chart, paste it, and see those sort of orange dots? That's what those are. Those orange dots are now we have the actual values all the way along that make up that are the trend line. Because sometimes people want to see, like for each dot, see this blue dot, it's below the line. Well, we look straight up, and that's the actual dot on the line. This one also goes up. This blue one, they're a bit scattered. It's not a 1, it's a 0.71. Well, if you draw a line down, that's this orange dot is the actual value on the trend line. So, lots of different ways to learn this, but the way I learned it was just by getting the basics and then playing around and of course reading stuff all over the internet, and that's how I've taught myself a lot of stats.